20 to the top of the hour. It's still morning at NTV. Tuesday's edition is going to be looking at some Kamani opportunity. Seeds of Gold farm clinics are up and about, and to the west of Uganda, they will be coming to Mbarara. But of course, we get to have them being a forum where experts and farmers meet and they share information, and also they talk about the more pressing problems that are being faced in the agricultural sector, especially when the president is pushing full agro-industrialization. At such a point as this, there's need for incentives, there's need for leniency, there's need for considerations, but also there's need for support for that to become a reality. Now, Seeds of Gold farm clinics are definitely one of those opportunities and centers where this all can be a reality for us as Uganda. I am joined by the head of Disbursements and Recovery Bank of Uganda, and that is Madam Winnie Muliisa. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning, our viewers.
And then next to her, of course, we do have Melissa Nyakwera, who's the manager agri-business, Stanbic Bank. Karibu.
Thank you. Good morning, our viewers.
Okay, so let me start with you, Winnie. In regards to Seeds of Gold farm clinics, why should a farmer be concerned in the first place?
Thank you. Seeds of Gold farm clinics has been there for, I think this is probably the 31st farm clinic. Now, this is one platform, like you said, where farmers meet experts in agriculture finance, but also in agriculture itself. You get to learn improved technologies. You get to learn ways of how you can increase your yield, better farming methods, but also you get to meet the banks, you know, and get information on where you can actually access affordable credit to help you increase your farm productivity. So Seeds of Gold is like a one-stop center for the farmer. To get all this information in one place. It's a very strategic initiative that farmers get to benefit from. Yes.
Speaking of strategies, I know that Stanbic Bank has strategies. One of their focal points is boosting the agro industry right now. So when it comes to your partnership with Seeds of Gold, what are the strategies that you're trying to align with such initiatives to be able to intervene within the agriculture sector?
Thank you so much. I think what's key for us as a bank is that we are very cognizant of the fact that agriculture is key for this country. It's a very big contributor to GDP, about 25%, highest foreign exchange earner in terms of exports. Essentially, coffee is high up there, and employs about 70% of this economy. And if you look at when we do advertise, we usually say that Uganda is our home, we drive our growth. So as a bank, we cannot afford to ignore agriculture. And so that's key for us to play in the sector. But in terms of Seeds of Gold, we have partnered for the last 5 years or so with the Nation Media Group in this initiative. And the reason for this is because one of the key reasons as to why the sector is not really doing well is because of the low production yields and poor farming practices. So it's important for us because this initiative really brings together the farmers who are the producers in this space, but also the experts in the sector who are imparting knowledge to them, and that essentially means that they are able to produce more, they are able to access markets because they are producing more, and that means that for us as a bank we are able to really work then with them and provide or get them into the door by providing financial services to them. So that's why we are very keen to participate in the Seeds of Gold initiatives.
Okay. Winnie, as the Bank of Uganda, you've been a partner for quite a while. What are some of the benefits and realizations that you have seen through partnering with Seeds of Gold, especially with the Bank of Uganda SCF?
Okay, Bank of Uganda, as you are aware, we manage the Agriculture Credit Facility, which is a government initiative that provides affordable credit for the farmers and agro-processors. We have been managers of this fund since 2009. And so one of our mandates as regards managing this fund is that we are responsible for making sure that we reach out to the public, we reach out to the masses, we reach out to the target farmers, and on information about the fund and how it works and how they can access it. Now, we realize that we cannot work in isolation. They are experts in this field. And media is one of them. So we work with media houses because then they're able to disseminate information through print media, through TV talk shows like this one, through radio talk shows. So specifically for this was a very critical initiative for us, because outside of the fact that you are able to disseminate information through all these different channels, you now have an opportunity to engage directly with the farmers and get to talk to them, but also get to hear from them on what their challenges are, and you know, and through this actually we have been able to innovate or put in place innovations on how we can address some of the challenges that these farmers face. So this platform for us is very important because, like I said, it provides a platform for us to do engagement. It provides, but also it addresses a critical challenge that Melissa has talked about. That farmers, it's not just an issue of access to finance, it's information gap. It's how the farmer, it's where the farmer can actually, because you can get finance, but how are you able to use this finance to improve your production or productivity? How do you do that is to be able to access information on the best technologies available, on the best improved, whether it's seedlings or better breeds for those who are involved in animal husbandry, and you know, and so on and so forth. So it is very important for us. It was important that we align ourselves with the Nation Media Group so that we can actually realize our objective, and we have actually seen it. We have derived benefits from it. We have gotten feedback, like I mentioned, some of which has helped us innovate products that have served our farmers better. We've come up with a product that is called block allocation through engagements like this with farmers, because we listened and farmers said, oh, the smallholder farmer doesn't have collateral, but they also want to be able to access. And we said, okay, how can we then help them to access finance without necessarily being constrained by having collateral? So a number of products that we have designed, but also uptake of the fund has grown as a result of such engagements.
Okay. Melissa, there is that pressure that comes from people who want to get loans to, you know, boost their agro-businesses. And one of them is the cumbersome paperwork and the limited information that is provided by the service provider, especially the financial institutions, in this case Stanbic Bank. But I believe by the time you have set up an agribusiness unit at the bank, you have dealt with some of these things. So what are the bare minimums in terms of requirements for any farmer out there to actually benefit from what you're offering?
Okay, thank you. So I think I'll start with the key, most important one really, and that's the credit history. You must really have a clean credit history. And how we gauge that is through your financial card. So that's the first requirement. The second bit that financial institutions look at, essentially Stanbic Bank, is your ability to pay back that loan. And that's really looked at by understanding and seeing your current business, your plans, your projections, and us being able to see that yes, you will produce this amount, You have a buyer who is going to buy it and will buy it at probably this amount. These are your operating costs. And what's left over is this amount of cash, and that cash can comfortably pay the loan, but also leave some over for you or for the business to continue running. I think what's essential for me here to say is that we are still in a process or learning curve, and partly why it's important for us to also participate in these sessions is to encourage and, as much as possible, talk to the farmers, potential beneficiaries to this, and explain that it's important and imperative that we run the farming as a business, not as, if I may use or borrow that term we commonly use in Uganda, a side hustle or side gig. It's very important that we take farming as a business, bring it to the forefront, and once we do that, then we should be able to run this business sustainably. And once that's demonstrated, then definitely the financing will come through.
Okay, speaking of financing, what are those special products that you have designed hoping to be beneficial to the people of Mbarara farmers?
Okay. When you speak of Mbarara, I definitely think of dairy, coffee, yes. But yeah. And I also note that that region has done very well in groups, cooperatives. So one of our new products is the cooperatives, over and above whatever we've been offering our farmers. The cooperative sits under a SACCO proposition. The SACCO proposition, which is savings and credit cooperatives, really has several components to it. So we did come through and partner with several partners, such as ABI Finance, IFAD, and really the essential or thought process was that how do we solve for the challenges that the farmers are facing in their various groups collectively. So first and foremost, they face the challenge of management. The ability for this group to go beyond 2 years and keep running sustainably is the first challenge, and I'll speak how we address that. The second challenge is the bookkeeping. You know, some of these groups get to over 10,000 members in the groups. So how do they maintain the book and ensure that if it's Melissa, we know how much Melissa has saved, how much she's borrowed, when is she due for the payment, etc. The third bit is access to finance. The groups need financing for themselves. If you take an example and run with it, for example, of dairy, you will want to have coolers in place. You probably want to add agro-processing in place, and bring up yogurt, machinery, etc. And we've got examples that have done that. You may have challenges with power, and so we're trying to see how to address those. So we then came up with this proposition that solves for that. And one is we've got an account for the groups. We call it a SACCO account. There's no charges to this account. It's free deposits, free withdrawal. You have access. We can put you on our business online, and it's been embraced actually. So it's a good proposition to just first of all get these groups in, get them to step into the banking system or sector, because once they've done that, it starts to create a trend and a history that can allow us to actually lend to these groups. Then over and above that, we lend to them for the agri-processing or agriculture-based groups. We lend to them at 10% per annum. That's literally less than 1% per month. And this financing can be onward lent to the members, can be used to purchase the produce, purchase the milk. It can be used to, buy coolers. It can be used to add to value add to whatever produce
Value
they are
addition.
into. Yes,
Okay.
value addition.
All right.
We also do capacity building for their leaders to just ensure that the group does continue. We've had instances where the groups do not continue because the leaders are not managing them well. And then last but not least, we digitize these groups. At the digitization arm, where we work with to help with the management of the groups, with fintechs that do provide services or core systems to these groups, and so we are able to allow them move from bookkeeping, physical manual, to the digital era, and over and above that provide our FlexiPay wallet, which allows them to also transact digitally.
All right, thank you so much, Melissa. Winnie, turning to you, in terms of recovery, how is the Bank of Uganda actually helping farmers, especially focusing on Mbarara, and what best things come out of Mbarara to boost their financial muscle and status?
Okay, thank you. Like I mentioned, we do provide financing for almost every aspect of the value chain in the sector. Speaking of Mbarara, like Melissa has said, Mbarara is synonymous for cattle keeping. It's a cattle corridor, but also they are involved in coffee and passion fruits and, banana, matoke. So these are all areas that we do finance. We have actually financed farmers that are engaged in cattle keeping for beef industry. We know that the beef industry is growing. We do finance those that are engaged in dairy processing. So a number of dairy processing plants that are along the cattle corridor in Mbarara inclusive. We have financed to those, and we continue to finance them. We're actually looking at increasing lending to specifically those involved in cattle keeping. So that they can, because there is a limit to how much we are lending, up to 80 million. But now that the industry is growing, the demand is growing, especially for the beef industry, there's now a need to lift that cap, and that is feedback that we have received. So we do finance all those aspects. We are also now, like I mentioned, we have a product called a block allocation that targets a smallholder farmer who does not have collateral, but is able to access finance using what we call alternative collateral arrangements, because now we have things like the credit history, the credit reference bureau, that now the bank is able to lend based on that history of the borrower, that they can be able to tell what your character is, how have you borrowed in the past and paid back, do you have records, do you have savings, and how do you transact on your bank. So banks are now able to lend against such without necessarily taking on land as collateral or buildings and what we know as the history, the collateral, historical collateral that the banks usually do take.
All right, well, we want to say thank you so much for your continued partnership, Bank of Uganda and Stanbic Bank, in ensuring that Uganda actually moves forward in terms of development when it comes to the agro sector. This brings us to the end of this conversation. If you want more details, turn to our social media platforms at Nation Media Group for more details and how you can participate, but also how you can be a beneficiary of what these ladies have shared with us here this morning. We're going to be taking a short break. We'll be back with our Kickstarter. Please stay with us.